To anybody that uses social media and says, why aren't I that way? Always, always, always remember, they're not showing you those bad times. When you're feeling bad, when you're walking down the street and the bus splashes you and now your eyeliner's running and your outfit's ruined, you are not whipping out your phone and going, let me put this on Instagram. Unless you are already a content creator and you already have a following and you've reached the point where it kind of doesn't matter what you post, you're not putting that out there because it doesn't make you feel good. People don't like to share the negative things. No, you want to share the good things.
Mm-hmm.
You want to share the joy and the laughter. And so just keep in mind that everybody has bad days. Everybody.
Absolutely.
When you're scrolling down social media, it's designed to keep you engaged and to show you the positive. That's a big part of why I refuse to take down the one post that I have with me in the crop top.
Mm-hmm.
That got a lot of hate on it. And I refused to take it down. That outfit did not look good on me. But I tried. And everybody deserves to see that I tried. It didn't work, but I tried.
Do you know what though? I mean, the thing that I saw, because I came across that post and I was like, okay. And then when I was so stunned by how freely people were able to make assumptions and comments and say different things. And then I realized that because you actually, were you gifted that by a brand? And is it like a manga brand, or like they specialize in that, in a particular type of clothing? So for example, if I was to go to, is it Japan or wherever, that's just the norm for guys out there to wear?
No, not really. They gave me one shirt, the chain, the hat, and some stickers for free.
Mm-hmm.
I picked out the crop top because I've never worn a crop top.
Okay.
So I said, let me see if I can make this work. The fishnet shirt that I'm in, I actually own that. I use it on top of long sleeve monocolor stuff to give it the black texturing and the black pattern. That's the first time I've worn it just on its own like that.
Got you.
So, I mean, yeah, it was a sponsored post. They gave me some clothing. I fulfilled my obligation to them, but I didn't have to put that post on my own page either. I just had to send them the pictures. I chose to put that one out there. A, to shout them out, and B, because I tell people all the time, don't be afraid to try something new. Worst thing that can happen is you'll fail.
That's it. And I don't see the responses that you got. I mean, I think it's one of the worst quotes I've heard, but no, what is it? All publicity is good publicity. I don't necessarily think that that's a good thing, but it's the way how publicity works, is that people tend to get famous for the things that are not so great. And I'm quite sure with the traction that post got, like, it's one of those things where some would perceive it as a failure in the sense that you received a lot of negativity, but I think it was just extremely enlightening. I think when people put negativity or have something really demeaning to say, it's never a reflection of the person that they're talking to. It's where they are at that time. And I said that on the post because obviously people had said some not very nice things on the post, the one that you did with Charles. And at first I was just like, why? Like, why take time out of your day to, like, if you don't like it, or if you think, some people just like, oh, that's high school knowledge and that type of thing. Okay, that's your perception, but to put others down. There's a young woman that commented and said that girls know this when they're 12 years old. Males may take a time to catch up. And people have been like just outright just being rude. And it was on my mind to delete people basically swearing at her, but then I've always had a thing where it's if it can be perceived that she was being disrespectful in the first instance to put down men as in their entirety, to say that they don't get it. So it kind of opened the door, which again, it's all down to perception. So I wanted people to have the freedom, but it shocks me sometimes that people can just openly say things and not consider that there's somebody at the end of that. I know there's a lot of bots on social media too, but yeah, I was quite surprised when I saw your post, because crop top or no crop top, it doesn't make it okay for people just to judge you or make assumptions about your sexuality because of that. And I find that I didn't agree with that approach.
I actually disagree. It's fine for them to think the way they want to think.
Okay.
Everybody is entitled to their opinion. What you're not entitled to is to ignore something when it's said to you. I try to reply to almost everything, to at
Mm-hmm.
least acknowledge it. There were a lot of people that were like, oh, well, I'm going to unfollow now. Like, all right, you can not like the outfit, but now by saying that because of that outfit you're unfollowing, you missed the message in the first place.
Yeah.
You can not like the outfit, but also you didn't ask me anything. You made your own assumptions, and you're free to think that way. Like, don't be wrong, that style of outfit has for a very long time, dressing in a more feminine fashion has been directly related to sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And part of what I'd like to see change in the world is breaking that link. Because is it the fact of what it is, or is it the style it's worn in? Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you talked about that with Joe, where you said that high heels were created for butchers, and I didn't know that. I had absolutely no idea, and again, it just shows how there's a cycle where once back in the day it would have been totally acceptable for something. And you mentioned about colors, it used to be blue for girls, or and even the name Shirley, I didn't know that back in the day that Shirley was a men's name. So yeah, I think breaking the stereotypes and showing that if you like it, if you enjoy wearing it, if it's you, it's up to you, it should always be about the person. If you felt comfortable in the crop top, if it made you feel good, if it made you feel, do you know what, I could rock this on a daily basis, then I don't feel it has any, it's how it makes you feel. I've
I,
always been like that with my own clothing. If it makes me feel good, that's me.
I do think there's something to be said, especially with clothing, about, I don't want to say objectivity, because that's not the right word, but whether or not it's like objectively fits you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just different things with color theory or different cuts and body shapes and sizes. There's a very, like, almost scientific piece to an aesthetic. Like, if you like the piece, okay, that's cool. But you can like something and also recognize that it doesn't look good on you, which is exactly what I did with that crop top. I love the actual garment. I ended up giving it to my dog because it fits her perfect. Like, I love the shirt, it just didn't look good on me.
Okay.
And
So what do you think? Go on.
I think being able to recognize that, I don't know if the problem was the crop top or that it didn't, or that the outfit didn't work. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I looked like I was from Southern California, clean shaven, with a surfer body, and I was wearing that, and instead of it being tighter to me, it was more loose,
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have gotten a completely different reaction, even though it's the same garment.
I agree. I agree. You probably, yeah, it's different to body types and different things. And yes, I agree with that. I've always said, there's a lot of fashion and particularly with fast fashion that is making a lot of our, and I can only speak from a young women perspective, wear things which, okay, it's out there for everybody in every size, but always do consider, is it right for me, is it right for my body style, is it right for my body shape? But then I'm a huge fan of exploration. If you don't explore, if you don't try, I imagine if I looked through some of my, in fact I saw a photo from, like, I think it was about 18 years ago. And I looked at the outfit and I was like, what were you thinking? But at the time I thought I looked great. I absolutely, and I imagine I had people at the time as well telling me that it was, fantastic, because I kind of regard myself as a bit of a fashionista, when I was growing up. So, but it's about an exploration. So I, I hope you got more love than you got hate on that post,
Oh
watching from
no,
the inside from
I
it
got
down.
so much more hate than love. That post cost me like 8,000 followers.
Seriously, wow.
Yeah. The
Wow.
numbers have gone back up now. Like, I try to keep a little bit of a mind on the numbers, just
Mhm.
because if I try to get a partnership deal, like, there's very much so, I don't want to say it, but my followers are very much so the product for access to me.
Mhm.
Which sounds rude, but that's the way social media and trying to make money on it works.
Mhm.
I know on TikTok you need a minimum of 100,000 people before you start making anything. So I try to keep it in mind, but I'm not really focused on it.
And I think that's the beauty of what's going on at the moment is that kind of it's all happening for you. Like, I imagine your following is just going to continue to keep going as long as that video is circulating and every day someone's in the comments saying, what's his at? What's his Insta? And people being, so happy that they get to connect with you and the fact that you respond. There's so many people that have, posts that go viral and the comments when people are in there wanting to talk to them, there's no dialogue back and forth. And I said it in my post, I believe that comment section are a community, just like your Reddit and things like that and Discord. People like to talk to each other, negatively or positively. People like to talk, and I feel that's also why sometimes people put negative things, because they just want a reaction, any reaction. They just want someone to say something back to them. So I did try and respond to some of even the not so nice, some of the comments people were saying was, you should be aware of personal space. Why do you think you're entitled to just to record in a mall and people not? But again, I feel like you could apply that, the
It
Hammond's
goes
razor.
it goes both ways.
Yeah,
The
totally.
mall is a public place. You shouldn't record. The mall's a public place. I can record. The same
Absolutely.
exact argument can be made.
Hmm.
Moreover, what they failed to consider it is what's behind me there is an access hallway for the maintenance workers.
Hmm.
We were as out of the way as we could be while still being in a space we were allowed to be in.
Yeah. I think the majority of people have made that connection. I think somebody even commented they thought they knew where that mall was. So yeah, it's like I said, it's so crazy how
I
people
had
find every
when
detail.
that first went viral, I had somebody message me and they were like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm like, "Oh, South Jersey." Like, "Oh, that's wild. I hope I run into you at that mall." And then they said the name, like where they thought the mall was, and they were pretty close. They were off by like 2 or 3 towns. I'm like, "All right, well, if you're ever in this general area, let me know." And they live in the next town over to me.
Wow. Have you had that? Have you had people in public know you from your video?
Yeah, I walked in on Thursday to get my haircut, and my barber was like, "There he is. I was wondering how long it would take you to be back." And I was like, "Huh?"
Oh, brilliant. I love it. I love it. I really know that this is something where it's just, if anything, a snowball. And I totally appreciate what you said about not rushing to put stuff out there because content creation, and I found myself in very much the same place where I don't know if you've seen my post before, the one of your video, but and this kind of moves on to what I want to talk to you about next. But I've always had a good relationship with God. I've always had my faith, but I've kind of flitted in and out. And so this year, about 4 months ago, because I was using my platform to just talk about my business, and it was flat. It was flat. What I was talking about, the average person, and that's what I said about sometimes I felt there wasn't much depth. There's a lot of depth in what I do. Do not get me wrong. I don't just do, beauty treatments. I do, holistic massage, aromatherapy, Indian head massage. So there's so much for the soul that comes from what I do, but it's very hard to translate that into a picture. So I then put out a story just saying, guys, I feel like I want to talk about my faith more. I'd started going to church again, and it just felt like so much started to change very quickly for me. And I put out a post saying, look, I'm going to talk about my faith a little bit. I don't know how you guys feel. And it just tumbleweed. Nobody interacted. And I was like, oh, I'm going to lose loads of people now because they're going to be like, oh my gosh, she's just going to be talking about God all day. But then something said, just keep going, just keep going. Just don't, if, this isn't about anybody else. There's things that I want to put out there that I want when someone opens their phone, they don't just see something tragic or something worrying or something to make them feel bad about themselves. I want them to see something good. So I kept going. And then I put out one, and it was when I went to somewhere called Hebden Bridge in the UK, and it was a waterfall, and it was probably one of the most beautiful times I've experienced this year. And it was a quote just saying, you're going to make it. That was one of the first dealings I had of going viral, because that got like 213,000 views. And again, like with your video, it was just overnight, just comments upon comments upon comments. And so from that point, I was like, do you know what? People do want to hear. People do want, you know, and sometimes what I put out is hit and miss. Like some of the posts, even more so recently now, haven't necessarily had as much traction, but I feel like that's just time, and I'm not going to rush to put out more content. But I agree with you about putting out with what resonates with you in a way, in a time where you feel like, because you work full time, is you do lawn landscaping, is that right?
I fertilized lawns.
Yeah, so I imagine
Yeah,
trying
that's
to
all.
find time to do landscaping, then content creation, then all the other things that you're interested in. That's a lot of time in your day. So I get it, is what I'm saying in a long way. Is that I get that, being a content creator, if I could do what I'm doing right now, all day, every day, and be paid for it, which I feel that will come, I'd love it. I'd absolutely love it. But I understand that that takes time to build, and there's a lot of people that have
It's
paved the way.
it's also, I'm still struggling to convince myself that the things I have to say are worth saying. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't have a degree. I really am just a guy. And if people like what I have to say, I can speak. But as I said with the video in the first place, it still blows my mind that it's going around, because to me, that's just how I go about my day. What's so interesting about the way I hold a door at Wawa or at the
Hmm.
gas station? What's so interesting about, me going out to McDonald's and grabbing a burger? These same things that I preach of don't be afraid to try something new, that doesn't mean you have to go skydiving. It could mean try the thing that's on McDonald's new menu, try their seasonal pie.
Hmm.
You might go, oh my god, I love pumpkin, and you've never had it before. That could change your life.
Hmm.
It could be inconsequential. But how do I convince myself that these little, almost nonsensical, everyday things that I've been doing for decades are worth people's time? That's
I think it's more so being worth your time. So you did a post about stringing up the lights and just saying to everyone, look, I've learned how to do this. I've kind of self-taught. I'm now on a roof in a beautiful neighborhood. Stuff like that. I know people want to see people almost live vicariously through you, but then you also open the door to say, look, I did this. I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it, but I did it, and it goes to show that you can do it. And if your content is driven around, like you said, you don't normally eat a particular dish, but you decide to sit down one day and give it a try, you know I think one of the things that I believe that was said in your previous videos, just do it. There is, I think there's, so for example, my daughter, she's sat on a following of like 20,000 followers on Instagram, and she's had that for years. And she's also, I think, got quite a decent following on TikTok. And she wants to put out her own content, and she has got to procrastinate every single day. And I'm like, just do it. I believe in you, just do it. And I'm sending her videos and I'm saying to her, look, if these people can do these things, I know you can. But she has to come to the point in her own mind that she's ready. And I'm certainly not going to, because I know how long it's taken for me to get to the point that I'm at. But I do believe that the only time is now, and that we all, time does pass us by. I've seen people go that haven't, young people that should still be here, and I never want to leave this life thinking there's things that I didn't try just because I didn't think I could. Life wants to tell me that, okay, you can't do a podcast because no one will listen and only one person tunes in. That's okay. But I still did it, and I still got to speak to yourself, someone of huge value in that you've taken in my life, for the words that you've said and what you shared, and just the experience in itself. So I'm good with that. My win is this conversation. So wherever it goes from here, this conversation happening, like I was checking my phone, I was like, I hope it doesn't cancel. I hope we're able to have this conversation, because I was just so intent on being able to learn more from you. So I hope you do know that you do have value, and that, yes, it might have just been a flippant discussion, but listening, I've got so many different sound bites that I've written down from your podcast. One of them being, people out there are rooting for your success, and I am one of them. That's what people want to know. People want to know that, maybe at home they don't hear somebody saying to them, I'm rooting for you. I think that you can do this. And it can sound contrived and it can sound cheesy. And there's loads of people on the internet saying stuff like that right now. I literally have my explore page filled with people going, God told me to tell you today. So I know. But I think when you're sincere and when you're genuine, no one can ever get tired of that. And we all have a space. We all have a space. There is literally room for us all. So I hope your content creation continues, and I certainly know that your following will just only continue to grow. So I
my
wanted, go on,
my
sorry.
favorite thing with my content is when people reach out and they message me or just a comment that I needed to hear this today.
Yes.
Because again, this is almost everything I've posted is just a reflection of how I go about my day, the things I believe in. And it's not like I looked these things up and then said them. 99% of everything I've posted has been one take. I might re-record something if a truck passes me by and you can't hear me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to convince myself that these are important things. But when people are reaching out and saying, hey, this helped, I know that my time is being spent wisely.
100%. 100%. And it's absolutely priceless. Something that I think I put in the posing the questions to you from a spirituality perspective, from an enlightenment perspective. Do you feel like you're an enlightened person, or do you feel like you're still very much on a journey of learning?
I will always be on a journey of learning. There is too much knowledge for anybody to say they really know everything.
Very true.
I've
Absolutely.
come to realize in life and in the world, I know enough to admit that I know nothing.
Yeah, 100%. When you feel like you know everything is when you realize that you know nothing at all. I think it was Ram Dass that said before he had his stroke, he would go out and say, how can I help you? And then once he had his stroke, he was saying, how can you help me? Because he was on this big, famous path of enlightening people and bringing them close to themselves. And then he found himself restricted in his own body and had to suddenly turn to everybody else for them to help him. And that to me was just so hugely, hugely profound. And from a faith perspective, where do you have quite a strong faith, or how I just want to learn about
Almost,
other people.
almost the complete lack thereof.
Okay.
I don't believe there's a higher power. I believe the time that we have here is it.
Okay.
Excuse me. As far as the people that say evolution isn't real, next time you catch some flies in your house, you can test that yourself. I'm not kidding. If you take two groups of flies and you
Mm-hmm.
try to raise them, and you keep one group in complete darkness, sealed box, and you keep the other group in just like a glass jar, and you feed them or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because flies have a very short life cycle, so it's realistic for the normal human being to do. You give those flies 5 or 6 generations, the flies that you let out of the box won't be able to use their eyes, or they will be completely blind in the light.
Wow. That's so cool. I've never considered even testing it in real life, but I like to hear about other people's faith, and whether, like you said, lack
Um,
thereof. I think it's good for us to
so
know.
I have read the Bible cover to cover a couple times over.
Amazing.
I think a lot of what gets missed about the Bible is some very simple truths about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Bible is written by man.
Mm-hmm.
There is not a singular book in the Bible that is penned in a God's own hand. It's all God told me, God said to me.
Mm-hmm.
In his letters he wrote. Also, there was a point in time in our history where every single copy of the Bible came out of the same monastery,
Mm-hmm.
and it was
Yeah.
all transcribed by hand.
And books were dropped, books were removed. um yeah, I've done. That's one good thing about getting back to my faith, because I never liked the terminology of blind faith. I don't think that's ever been necessary. I feel like understanding what you are doing is quite important to feeling sincere in your faith. And I came across quite a few. For example, I was looking into Solomon's books, and there's a lot of people who will, quote Solomon. And it depends on whether or not you believe, or whatever, and I will leave it broad, maybe a topic for another day. But Solomon wasn't a great guy at times, and he used psychics, he used high different things to get his high, to be able to channel what he was saying. This is where my research has taken me into. Whereas a lot of the glossy fluffy versions of what was said have been put into the Bible, but there's also a heck of a lot of stuff missing. So while I do read the Bible, it's not my only point of reference. Even
I
just the story
also
of G.
I
Go on.
also tell everybody to understand the lessons in the Bible, you have to look at it from a historical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
There's a section in the Old Testament that reads, "Thou shalt not eat shellfish, for it is an abomination."
Mm-hmm.
What is an abomination about shrimp? I have yet to meet anybody that can give me a legitimate answer to that question who hasn't studied history.
The only person I've had one person tell me that it was an abomination because they are bottom feeders. They eat the waste ultimately. Say the same with pigs. This was just one perspective I was given. It's the same with pigs, and I believe it says in the Old Testament as well because it tells you not to eat of the split hoof and that type of thing. But it's about because they consume waste and will pretty much eat anything. So for that reason, if your body is the ultimate temple, not a church, but if your body is that temple, then when you put unclean things within your body, then unclean things can happen. So, but
I
again,
can I can I can challenge that interpretation with the split hoof now.
Mhm.
Cows have split hooves.
Yes. But would I would imagining that's why is it in Hinduism where they don't eat the cow? I'm not too sure. Is it Hinduism
Yes,
and
but that's for a separate reason, and that is a separate religious outlook altogether.
Mhm. But I
That is
feel
about the
like
cycle of rebirth and respect.
yes.
So if you look at where humanity was when those books were written, a lot of us were still living in or around the Nile and the rivers and the tributaries.
Mhm.
That is also how everybody washed everything. There was no plumbing. All the animal byproducts got put in the river. Everything.
Mhm.
Everything. So, yes, the shellfish are filter feeders, they are bottom feeders. So, when something is incredibly polluted, the shellfish are not safe to eat.
Mhm.
Now you're looking at a time period before we had water purification when we used the river for everything, including animal waste. So, if you ate the shellfish, you'd get sick.
Mhm.
Also, at that time period, the village elders and the leaders were also the religious leaders. They were
Mhm.
one and the same. So, how do you protect your people in a way that guarantees they'd be safe? God said.
Mhm.
Mixed fabrics is in the Bible as an abomination.
Mhm.
Well, if you go back to when everybody was making a living through agriculture and doing wool trading, mixed fabrics put everybody that wasn't at a certain very high skill level out of work.
Mhm.
So a lot of it is, all right, well, that makes sense. The Bible is, in its essence, a 2 or 3 thousand year minimum game of whisper down the lane. I'm not saying don't follow it.
Mhm.
I'm saying look past the words and look for the meaning. Look at the themes of the entire book instead of just whatever verse you're looking at.
I would agree. I feel like I feel that would be one of those things where the entire religious not entire, but a lot of what you see out there at the moment, the Christian support and faith is a lot about you must read the Bible, must read the Bible. Again, I am firmly believing that spirituality. I heard it the other day on a different podcast. I am spiritual, not religious. Religious people are afraid of going to hell. Spiritual people have been there, and I absolutely love that. I feel that spirituality is individual to a person, whether or not you read whatever book or text. I mean, you can find spirituality in washing your face in the morning. You can find it by simply going outside and observing what the birds are doing. You know what song the birds are singing. So for me, I definitely feel that there is for me, I'm quite, of the feeling that there is something higher, but I can totally appreciate your viewpoints on it as well, because I feel we all have our own ways of interpreting everything, and whatever works for you, and as long as you feel that your life is the way how it should be and that you feel good. I like the idea of prayer. I like the idea of speaking to God. I also know that God is within me, not without. I know that there's not it's not an external source that I'm appealing to. Sometimes I'm just speaking to the higher Nadine. So, I just wanted to ask your question on that because I feel that's something that I'm going to ask everybody that I talk to, and it's not about judgment of it. I just like to hear people's perspective. I'm just conscious of time because I know I've had you on for a while now, and I don't know how long. It said something about you've got 90 minutes, and we're at 1 hour and 12. So I want to try and fit in as much as I can because there's a couple of questions that people asked, and one
All
of them
right.
in particular, you talked about you and your friends being quite introspective in your, I think, your physics class, and one of the comments by Tyrell_FFA was, "What do you think dark matter is made of?" Is that something that you have any opinion on?
I have no idea what it could be made of. I know the theory is essentially that it's the absence of matter. So there's not really like pressure as a good example to describe it. We all know what a high pressure and a low pressure environment feel like.
Hmm.
But the low pressure isn't a thing. It's just the absence of pressure.
Okay.
Just like cold isn't a thing. It's just the absence of heat.
Hmm.
So I don't know for sure, but as far as I understand it, dark matter isn't quite a thing. It's just the absence of matter.
That it reminds me of something Alan Watts said. That's very much the principle that he spoke of, which is light isn't a thing or sound isn't a thing. It's an absence of noise and that type of thing. So yeah, I got, so that's a good answer. That's something that I'll try and let that commenter know that you've responded to that. Also, you put somebody Jess XCX, and you did actually respond to this in the comments, but just to elaborate on it, because you've said about, you put a post about mindset coaching. Do you believe in fake it till you make it? And I believe your response was, yes, to some degree, but it doesn't, not it's not the everything. So with your mindset coaching, what is your approach going to be when you get someone that says, Robert, I'd love you to coach me?
For one-on-one coaching, I have to be very careful with my time, which is why I put out a poll, and everybody that answered yes to, I reached out individually and said, hey, what do you think is a fair rate? Because I know I have an audience all over the world,
Mhm.
and economies aren't the same the world over. I've gotten a handful of people that said I can't afford anything over $5 an hour. I had somebody that said, I believe you could charge up to $2,000 an hour.
Wow.
The approach is really looking at, well, where do you feel you're lacking? Why do you feel that way? A lot of the way the therapist might, but I can't tell you what to do. I can
Mhm.
just try to help you change the way you look at your world. I believe a lot of the stress people go through is a matter of perspective.
Absolutely. And have you had an uptake on that? Have you got people booked? Are you still very much deciding what your rate's going to charge and how you're going to fit that
Yeah,
into your day?
yeah, I'm still deciding on the rate. I want the one-on-one sessions to really be like the end all be all of I don't feel like I'm getting enough out of your content and I need more.
Okay.
So I'm trying to build it out where I've just signed up for subscriptions on Instagram. I don't have anything posted there yet. If anybody hears this, please don't sign up for it yet. There is nothing there yet. But I want that to be more community driven stuff where people can ask a question and want to see a post about it and they're okay with that being shared out. I had a lot of people say, how do I deal with rejection? So maybe I'll do a 2-minute video on rejection and put that on the subscription thing. Whereas a lot of my other content that I've been posting is, I believe almost all of it's under a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel a lot of the times that's all you need in the day to day. But if you have a specific thing, then I think I want to do that to be the subscriptions where I can go into more detail about stuff.
That would be very, very cool. That would be very cool. And maybe on the original page, you can, and like what you're doing now, answer some of the topics that have been sent so people can kind of have an idea of what's coming. But I definitely see people subscribing for more from you. And yeah, if they know that ultimately, if they don't get what they want in a subscription, they can also contact you and be mentored directly, then that's huge. And I really, really wish you the greatest success with that, because that would be, I feel that there's a lot that you have to give, and even just being able to talk to people, hence why I wanted to do this podcast, is just talking really, really does help. So last couple of questions out, and then I will let you get on with your day. Current and recommended reads, what do you read?
As far as like self help books, because a lot of people have asked me, The Four Agreements and The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck are two things that I've read that really helped me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go for a lot of self help or books like that. I fully believe, and I especially say it to like money making books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that's trying to teach you how to do these things and isn't doing it themselves is lying to you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if somebody puts out a book, here's how to make $1 million a month on Wall Street. Why are you writing a book instead of making $1 million a month on Wall Street?
Show me that you've made it. I hear you. I hear you. I think the good thing is people are getting called out for that right now. It's been say, show me your credibility. So yeah, if you're gonna teach me how to make $1 million, I very, very much hope that you're a millionaire.
And
So is that
I also believe that everybody connects to things in a different way, right? We all have similar experiences. We can all like the same song and come away with a different way it impacts us. One of my favorite quotes from all time essentially boils down to, the way I interpret it, perfection is stupid, stop chasing it. Comes from an episode of Bleach the anime, where it's two scientists in a fight to the death.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really simple way of describing it. The actual quote is almost 2 paragraphs long because it's anime and it's long-winded sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You will never find the way it's described in that episode in any self-help book ever. You just won't.
Yeah.
Maybe if I write a book one day and put it in there, but you're not going to find that connection and that click, that realization of how it affects you in a self-help book. It might help you be able to recognize when you're having that moment, but it's not going to give you the moment.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to just try new things. If you're a fan of hardcore gangster rap, and you have a friend who's really into death metal, and they're really excited about this concert coming up, go with them. Go get in the mosh pit. Everybody looks at a mosh pit that hasn't been in a mosh pit, and they go, that's mindless violence. And then you're there, and you're in a mosh pit, and you're moshing, and you're like, when did this happen? Because it's not mindless violence. It's an expression of the energy that's around. You feel the music in your chest. You feel the energy and the buzz of the crowd, and that has to go somewhere. So instead of it going direction, it goes everywhere.
Yeah.
But what people don't know is if you fall in a mosh pit, 9 times out of 10, somebody will be carrying you out of the pit before you can hit the ground.
Really? That's good. That's good to
They
know. 'Cause
are...
I always see them and I think, ouch. I don't want
Yeah,
anyone
I
to
mean,
get
don't get me
hurt.
wrong. People sometimes get stepped on. Accidents happen. I'm lucky enough to be a smaller gentleman. I went to Disturbed had a tour last summer. I went to their concert. I was in the mosh pit. Somebody who was probably 280 pounds shoulder checked me. I didn't get hurt. I did leave the ground. Sounds painful. I knew it was coming. I braced for it, all in good fun. This same guy, upon realizing that I had left the ground, grabbed me out of midair and took me to the edge of the pit to make sure I was all right.
Oh, good. I love that.
So it's not, and it's perception. It's not mindless violence, and it's expression of energy. And I took some friends with me who had never been to a mosh pit before.
Mm-hmm.
And their opinion of the way the music is and the way the crowd interacts and what the bands believe in all changed just on seeing the way a mosh pit actually works.
Wow. And what
So
makes you like music.
it really is just new experiences. A lot of people will say anime is for kids. Some are, some aren't. It's all storytelling. That's like saying books are for kids. Well, alright, but if you have a book that explains in gruesome detail how to perform brain surgery, you're not giving that to a toddler.
This is true. This is very, very true.
So, as far as entertainment value, the Chronicles of Nick series by Sherilyn Kenyon is a good series. It's young adult novels. Odd Thomas by Dean Koontz and his series is one of my favorite. And the Halo series is also one of my favorites. The stories of Noble Team, Master Chief, just in general, that universe is one of my favorite. And it goes into a lot more detail than the games show.
As always with books, I used to read a lot of Stephen King when I was younger, and then I began to watch the films. I read The Stand, which is like it's like on greaseproof paper, like baking paper, and the text is so small. And I just was resolute that I had to watch the videos, and I couldn't finish it because, well, I say videos because that's back how long ago it was, and it was across like 6 different VHSs. But that book, it was honestly the detail that you get by reading something. I've always wanted to start a book club because
on the topic of books, because a lot of people seem to misunderstand my quote about looking deep. Not everything is deep. I think it was the guy that wrote A Tale of Two Cities was paid by the word.
Okay.
So you have these long-winded, I think he has like 6 chapters in a row that are describing furniture in a diner.
And that's
My man was just trying to get
elaborate.
paid. My man was just getting paid. The diner, he's paid by the word. Yes, I'm going to milk that.
Interesting.
Sometimes the curtains aren't blue because the character's depressed. Sometimes whoever was writing was struggling sitting in a Starbucks, saw a really pretty blue car and said, "Oh, I'll use blue. That looks good."
Yeah, we got to keep it simple. It's true. It is so true. And you said something else as well about when, because again it was the quote of "Are you real?" You weren't trying to be deep. You just didn't quite understand the question at the time. Is that right? That you were kind of like, he was just like, "Are you
Yeah,
real?" And you just
at the time, I wasn't sure if he was asking me, like, trying to expand on am I an AI or anything like that, or if it's like, yo, keep it real.
yes,
I wasn't sure what the inflection was be, but I try to be real. Like, I try to stay true to myself. I certainly don't always succeed, but I try.
get that on a t-shirt. Get it in the Amazon store.
I'm working on merch designs with an artist that I met up with at the anime convention that I went to, where I really liked their style. And I try to be very careful about who I support, because I don't want to support somebody whose products I wouldn't use.
Yeah.
I bought a sweatshirt from them for my girlfriend that she fell in love with. I liked their stickers, I liked their art style, so I've reached out to them to try to get some stuff on the works and going, and try to figure out somebody to help me with the merch side of things, because it's a lot to learn all at once. One thing I think I'm going to do right after the holidays and the new year is start offering wood-burnt plaques that have "never attributed to malice, what can be attributed to incompetence," and "stay real" on it, and I'm going to sign them.
Yes. I'd get one. That sounds incredible. Would you burn them yourself? Can you do
Yes.
that?
Yes,
That's
I have
incredible.
a wood burning set downstairs. I would just have to find, plaques of wood that are of a certain quality. Like, I'm not going to send people out plywood.
Yeah.
That being
Oh, that's
said, I would hang
amazing.
plywood in my house, but I'm not going to sell people plywood. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also, I guess you're going to have to look at the weights as well, because I don't know about you, but postage at the moment is crazy. So it's finding something where you can ship it and it not cost you more than it costs to make it, type of thing. So hopefully you find an avenue to be able to do that. But yeah, I'd be there. I mean, I know that I've recently set up my Amazon merch store and it was really easy to do, and I can design my items and then just upload them. I don't know if it's because I've had this account for years, so I don't know if you can still do it, but if you can do even the most basic design. And obviously, for me it's more about, I want people to have something where they can wear it and they can remind. So my brand is God's child, so that everyone remembers that they're a child of God, because again, that's why I say that's what I believe. So it's there. And it's just when somebody goes on Amazon, if they decide that they like that and they agree with that too, then they can pick one up. I think it's like commission based, but it was something where I've looked into designing my own clothing. I've looked into the costings over the years, because I've been in and out of fashion for years as well. And it was just going to cost way too much. And I just simply want people to be able to deliver the quality. So there is always an avenue. But
So I hear you, but I also want Jeff Bezos to pay his taxes.
Well, this is the thing. This was the inner conflict I had as well. Do I really want to give Amazon more? But I'm just like, if people are there and people are purchasing, because unfortunately we live in a world where everyone says support more small business, but they're not. Like, I'm a small business. I always try and buy local, and I'll speak to people about, and I'll make recommendations for local businesses, for people that do little weird and wonderful, intricate things. And people are like, yeah, okay. And then next, they're doing something on the Amazon cart, and that's no judgment to them. I use Amazon, and yes, I agree. I would love
I have also reached out to, I'm friends with the CEO now, but the people that make the jacket that I'm wearing in that video, I've reached out to them, and I'm trying to get something started with them for an affiliate program and stuff like that. So if anybody, wants that jacket, the branding is right there on the jacket in the video. And if you want to mention me, I'd appreciate it, because that just shows that it's still going around.
100%, 100%, and I will make wherever I can make that clear too. I don't know if I'm putting myself on my own time, but we have 2 minutes left, and I would love to speak to you again. I don't know if that's going to be a possibility. I could talk to you for hours. I love what you have to say, but message to others. If we have a minute and a half left, what would you be saying just to the general overall listenership at the moment? What would you have to say?
Life is a journey. Stop taking it personal. You're not the car, you're not the road, you're just along for the ride. Enjoy the scenery.
Yes.
Take a deep breath. It'll be okay. We'll overcome. That's what humans are good at. We're not the fastest, we're not the strongest, we're not the most dangerous. We're built for thinking and for endurance. So take a deep breath, get your cup of coffee, think things through. You'll be okay.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Robert, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really appreciate your time. Like I said, I would love to talk to you again and pick your brains on multiple things. And I'm always here if you say, Nadine, I'd love to discuss this topic. I'm going to use this platform in the best way that I can to make sure that I deliver so that people can just sit and listen and hear that good old dialogue still exists. But thank you so much. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. I don't know if you're into it at all, but yeah, I hope you have a lovely time. And thank you. I really appreciate your time.
I hope you have a lovely Christmas and a happy New Year as well. If you're in the mind to watch a folk parade on New Year's Day, airing out of Philadelphia, is the Mummers Parade. I've been marching with the same brigade for 20 years.
Mummers, Mummers.
Yes, it is
Wonderful.
over 100 years old.
Beautiful. So how can I find that? Is that on YouTube or do I just Google it and
I
come across
think
it?
I think it's streaming on PHL 17 this year.
Okay, PHL 17. I will look out for it. It's a pretty big parade, I imagine. Is everyone dressing up and that type of thing?
So yes, my group is, of our 13 in my division, we're one of the middle-sized ones, and we're 500 strong.
500. Wow.
They shut down the main road in Philly coming from City Hall going south, and like 15 or 17 side streets around where all the clubhouses are. It is a huge, huge parade.
That's incredible.
And you can find clips of it in previous years on YouTube.
I'm going to do that now. I'm going to go and take a look. You've just taught me something new. I'm going to have a look. We're not that big on it here. There's not all that type of stuff going on here, if I'm totally honest. I think that there's a lot of traditions that are coming over from America. Like even like Easter, we do like Easter eggs and stuff. But Halloween, I've noticed more people getting into it now. But again, I think that's because of social media, because people are putting lights on the outside of their house so they can kind of put a picture on Facebook. But I'm not hugely into the holidays in that sense. But I do love the idea of coming together, eating good food and having a good time with family. That's what this time of the year is.
I say it every year because New Year's is so important to me. If I had to choose between Christmas or New Year's, I personally would take New Year's and my Mummers Parade every time.
Exactly. Welcoming in New Year. I'm totally with you on that. That is where we totally, totally concur on that. I feel like just embracing a new year is a nice thing to do. And I'm not into like New Year's resolutions, but I do like seeing the back of a year, and knowing that there's we as long as God gives us breath, we've got the opportunity to see a new one. But yeah, again, thank you so much for your time. Could we do this again? Could we have a conversation again in the future, do you think?
Absolutely. I've already messaged you with, just because I know how busy the next week or two is going to be for me, I figure 3 or 4 weeks out, we can do another one.
Yes, that would be amazing. Thank you so much. Let's do it and let's reflect. And I'm going to have a listen to this. I'm going to get some editing done and any questions that you have for me. And I feel that, again, you've said so much and given so much of yourself. I know, I'm no longer going to say, I hope, I know that your future is going to be based on you helping others because you already have. You've helped me. You've helped thousands of people in the comments, as you can see, and I appreciate you greatly. So yes, I would love to speak to you again in 3 to 4 weeks.
Absolutely. We'll make it
All
happen.
right.
You enjoy the
Have a
rest of your
lovely
day.
evening. You too. You take care, Robert, and I will speak to you again soon.
Absolutely. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.